Hello, people of the internet. Welcome to the special report, your news and views program about geek gaming culture. Coming up in the show today, a big story involving Microsoft, who is set to buy Activision Blizzard in an all-cash deal valued at $75 billion. We're going to be talking all about the details about this, how it affects gaming, and how it affects Activision, and how there's really no challenge to this. And yeah, that might be a little bit troublesome. We'll be talking about all of this, if it is troublesome or if it's a good deal or not. My name is JD Shadow. All of that and the OCRemix track of the day comes your way right about now. Well, in a very interesting turn of events, the troubled developer Activision Blizzard and the publisher, as it would be, is set to be bought. And a all-cash deal is set to be closed in on by who else? Microsoft. According to the Wall Street Journal, they are going to be buying the company in a all-cash deal, the all-cash, yes, of $75 billion. I wish I had that much money to just throw around, and all cash as well. You don't think they're going to charge credit card or write a check for it or something like that? And this is according to the Wall Street Journal, that says that if it is completed, it would sharply expand Microsoft's already sizable video game operation. It will add the Call of Duty, World of Warcraft, and Candy Crush franchises. I forgot they even own Candy Crush. And they do touch upon the fact that they already own Mojave and Bethesda, which they bring up Minecraft and Doom. They say that if the transaction goes through, it would make Microsoft the world's third largest gaming company by revenue, behind Tencent Holdings, which, yeah, Tencent, yeah, and Sony, which we'll talk about here in just a second, because there's something that I believe we need to discuss about this. The deal is valued at $68.7 billion after adjusting for Activision's net cash, Microsoft had said. Now, in case you were crawling out from under a rock and didn't hear about anything that was going on in Activision Blizzard for the past couple of months, we've been talking about it at great deal. And no, we have not stopped talking about it. There really isn't any news to go around recently about that until we heard about Bobby Kotick and all of that. However, in case you are crawling out from under a rock, Activision Blizzard got sued by the California DEFH for very deplorable workplace environments, and I would go on all day if I had to list again the types of things that were going on, including the cube crawls, which I've never heard about before. If you want to watch some of the earlier content, please go check out the card in the upper right hand corner, upper right or upper left, I think it's the upper right, but go ahead, check out those cards. You're probably seeing on screen right now for more information about that, because we'll be here all day if I try to go through all of that. Bottom line is that Activision Blizzard saw a mass exodus in both employees and its fans, because as soon as this whole thing dropped, everybody kind of canceled their World of Warcraft subscription, went to Final Fantasy 14. Thanks a lot. Now we're on to long queue times of that game. But we like having you. But one of the big things about this is that Bobby Kotick, the aforementioned Bobby Kotick, will more or less, unless there is a miracle that suddenly transpires, he will be ousted as the Activision Blizzard CEO once this all goes down. Microsoft said it's an announcement Tuesday, according to Wall Street Journal, that Mr. Kotick will continue to serve as CEO of Activision Blizzard, but once the deal closes, the Blizzard business will report to Microsoft Gaming Chief Phil Spencer, or the Activision Blizzard business. I don't want to think that we're only talking about Blizzard here, not the Activision side. And Mr. Kotick, we call him Mr. Kotick, didn't specifically address his status, but he said that he will always be available to ensure that they are going to have the very best integration. And not only did Activision Blizzard see a mass exodus in their fan base and their employees, but also of their value. They went down 30% since that whole thing dropped, but it went up 38% in pre-market trading after Wall Street Journal reported on the story Tuesday morning. Now, apparently this is a deal that was in the works for a bit, as Microsoft was reported to have been in talks since November, although we didn't exactly hear about that. I think that's one of the things that, if something like this is going on, then maybe it'd be best if you just trample upon the NDAs and stuff like that, because this is something that maybe we might want to the challenge if we would have to, and I'll get to that in just a second. Now, yes, Microsoft had bought Mojang, they had bought recently Bethesda, and yes, they have been somewhat successful, but they have had some setbacks because tried to buy TikTok for, and that didn't exactly go over so well, and they were unsuccessful with buying Pinterest and Discord as well. Now, notice I didn't say one particular aspect, which is whether or not they would have to get approval by the FTC before they went and bought one of these companies or closing on a deal that would have to get approved by the FTC. Things like the AT&T and Time Warner merger, I think the FTC had to get in there and actually have to make sure that it would not create a monopoly or be close to one. Not quite sure why they don't touch upon these video game acquisitions. I don't know why they don't, but I have a feeling that once they see this, maybe they might want to pay attention to that. Also, Sony has yet to respond to this. They have yet to say, hey, this is what we think of it. Neither has Nintendo, neither has any other gaming company who might have also been in the running in order to buy Activision Blizzard. And remember, this has not been closed yet, so things might change by the time you read this, by the time you watch this. Now, before I go any further into my thoughts about this, please be aware that I am for all game companies to be able to function and to strive and thrive and stuff like that. I know that these types of deals go on all the time, and recently we've been seeing things like Sony should buy Konami or another game company like that, or Kojima Productions, which basically is a second party company for Sony, and I understand that. I also understand that by criticizing one particular video game console manufacturer, you are somewhat deemed as a fanboy for the competitor, and I don't know why that is. I don't know why. Maybe it's just the fact that people can't handle the video game company they love being criticized in any sort of way, regardless of how harsh or how benign it is at the end of the day. I understand that. However, I'm not trying to poke the bear here. We are allowed to criticize these game companies. We are allowed to do that. We are allowed to criticize Microsoft or Sony, and that doesn't mean we're fanboys for the other side. So please spare me that. Please, if you're going to say that, just don't, because you know that we are allowed to do that. You are a fanboy of Microsoft. You should want them to do well. You should not want them to have a reason to be lazy and to create good products for you. That means that you should be able to criticize Microsoft or Sony or Nintendo or any other gaming company if you think that they're not doing up to par. Activision Blizzard, for example, you saw what the exodus it was there. Nobody liked what they were hearing, so they spoke with their wallets. And you know what? That shows you, Ross Curran, that not all male gamers are sexist. They actually spoke, and they spoke the one way they knew how to do it. So yes, male gamers do respect female gamers. Can we please stop thinking that male gamers by default are sexist? But that is for another time. I just want to get that out there. Let's get to the crux of this, which is, I don't know if this is something that won't be challenged. I mean, here's the problem I'm seeing, and I get it. Maybe Microsoft is trying to improve these companies. Mojang is doing somewhat well. We don't know how Bethesda is going to operate, although we had that firestorm about one of those games that were going to be exclusive to the Microsoft console when they were going to be multi-platform first. I forget what the name of the game is. But the main problem that this is going to create is that if we set a precedent for this type of thing to occur, where video game console manufacturers just keep gobbling up these big companies, these huge companies that have so many games that people on all platforms do enjoy on their favorite console, what's that going to create? That's going to create a huge problem of a monopoly. And yeah, Sony can buy Konami if they wanted to, but they're not. And I don't understand why they're doing that, why they're not countering any of this. They do have the money, they do have the means in order to do it, in order to challenge something like this or to create a counter offer. I don't know why they're not in the same room as this. And it is kind of frustrating because we're seeing Microsoft continuing to acquire all these companies, and this is what they did before, was it not? Back in like the beginning of the new millennium, that was one of the things that Microsoft was really known to do, was to try to monopolize the tech industry. And now we're seeing what they're doing is they're starting to like waiting until they're in trouble. These game companies are in trouble. Of course, we know that Bethesda wasn't doing financially well. Now we're seeing that not only is Activision not doing financially well, but they're not doing morally well. And here comes Microsoft, the knight in shining armor, saying, hey, you know what? We will buy your company. We will take your company. We will do whatever we need to do in order to make sure your company is going to thrive, and hand out all this cash, which, again, I wish I had $75 billion to just throw around at things like this. I would be buying them. And you may think, hey, you know what? Activision Blizzard is not worth buying because of all the problems, but you understand that even in these troubled times, people would still be able to enjoy the games they were creating. I mean, yes, the higher ups at Activision Blizzard were horrible people. There's no denying that part of it. But below them were a lot of great developers. People who were victims of that, who wanted to create great games, who wanted to create a good Call of Duty, who wanted to continue on with World of Warcraft, who wanted to create the next big franchise or the next big IP, didn't have any way in order to speak out or had any way in order to say something, or were threatened their jobs that they did speak out, or the higher ups that were afraid of those higher than them. Remember, Bobby Kotick was allowing all of this to occur, and it's no wonder that he is going to be ousted at the end of all of this, assuming that it goes through. So yes, there is a value to be had there. And remember, once this went through, once this news broke, their shares went up a lot within a day. They surged according to the WSJ. So keep in mind that it's not like people don't see value still in the games they produce, even if the higher ups that were running the company were a bunch of undesirables. So Microsoft obviously sees value in this. If not, then they wouldn't have gone and tried to buy them. But if you don't call this out, if you don't say, hey, wait a minute, even though I'm thinking that Microsoft will treat people with respect in that company and will make sure games come out right, and they will make sure that the games are worth playing, I don't want a video game monopoly where Microsoft is the only player in the game. And remember, this is not some small indie developer that they can buy out that, hey, we can put it into our portfolio, we like what they're doing, and Activision Blizzard is somebody who makes games mainly for us. This is one of the biggest gaming developers in the world. Remember, Activision started out in the Atari era, in the Atari 2600 era. Remember Pitfall, remember River Raid? That was Activision. That was clearly Activision. They were one of the first video game companies that were third party. They have a lot of history to them, and they have been creating games for the longest time, longer than most of us were even alive to know about. This is like if McDonald's would suddenly buy Burger King and Wendy's and try to put everything under one umbrella, and everybody would have to eat Big Macs instead of Whoppers or Signals or anything like that, or hey, we're going to put our own meat into the Wendy's chili or something like that. This is that kind of acquisition, and you would probably need the FTC to approve of this, and we don't usually hear that. And last time I tried to say that this might be worthy of somebody to bring up to the FTC, I got called a fanboy for that. That's why I'm saying, you know what, bear me that, because you are allowed to criticize your own favorite gaming company. I certainly have done that before. And no, it's not Sony. Let's get that right out of the way. We have criticized Sony in the past. I have done that. I have criticized Nintendo. I have criticized all those. So please spare me that criticism, because it's not going to stick. You can't get it to stick. There's no evidence that I have given to you that would make it stick. You are allowed to do that. And this is worthy of somebody to make sure that there's not going to be a monopoly here. The deal has not closed yet. There's still time for that to occur. And I'm pretty sure that if the FTC is going to see this and it keeps happening, it will occur, because there's going to be a chance where people are going to want to question whether or not it's going to create a monopoly. And I don't want a video game monopoly where the only choice I have is to go through Microsoft's systems. And it would be the same thing if Sony came out and did the exact same thing to Activision Blizzard and Bethesda. We would be wondering if there was going to be a monopoly there. And yes, I get it that Sony is not exactly the most popular gaming company as it comes to public relations. I do get that, because they have made some pretty stupid decisions lately. 3, and the PS5 still is not anywhere to be found, even though it's been, what, couple years now? So obviously there has to be some form of criticism in there, because we've gone this long and there's still a chip shortage? What is happening to cause that? We have to think it might be intentional that there is a shortage, because how else would you define it at this point? Even Microsoft has now started to put out some systems where you can actually see them on store shelves. You can go to a Walmart and see that they're there. You can't do that with a PS5. Best Buy still has to put them on behind their store shelves, assuming they have them at all. And Walmart still has to do that Walmart Plus thing where they put it behind that paywall, and they're still being sold out within 10 seconds. Please explain that to me. Explain to me how there could be that much of a chip shortage where no one can get anything. Something is happening. Somebody needs to investigate that. So yes, that's worth criticizing. But talking about Microsoft here, we're not talking about Sony right now. If it was Sony, yes, we would talk about Sony, but we're not. If we're talking about Nintendo, we would be. If this was Nintendo doing it, we would be talking about it, but we're not. It's Microsoft. And from what we can see, the FTC or maybe Sony should be saying something here. We're saying, hey, you know what? We might want to counter in a way. And if Konami is still available to be sold, maybe Sony could bite. But that's the other thing. Why aren't they? If I was in charge of them, hell yeah, I would be saying something. Why wouldn't I? Why wouldn't I say something to this? Because I would be a little bit perturbed if I wasn't even allowed into the same room, if I was even invited to make a deal, if I was to hand them a check for maybe $80 million or $80 billion and they said, no, we want Microsoft. Why is that the thing? Why is that something that we're cheering here? Why are YouTubers cheering this? We should not be. We shouldn't be cheering this. And we shouldn't be called fanboys for calling it out. Why are we scared of being called fanboys? Maybe it's going to happen anyway. That's why I'm saying this preemptively, because I know it's going to happen. Why are we scared of taking off those people? They're not worthy to be given the same breath as those who actually want to talk about this. And we all know that Sony is wanting to create a competitor for Game Pass. Is this the counter that Microsoft has to that? Is to make sure that Sony doesn't have any way to put these big name games on their platforms. Remember, these can be system sellers too. And remember, Microsoft has had a problem with being able to give us first party experiences in the past. And the way they countered that was to create these exclusive DLCs for games that were multi-platform. Remember the GTA 4 debacle? And everybody cheered that. I'm like, why are you cheering stuff like that? Why are you cheering this exclusive DLC garbage? People kept doing it, and people kept doing it with the PlayStation DLC exclusives as well. What the heck? Why are you cheering that? So why are we cheering this? I hope some people can take charge of this. I think somebody should need to say something about this, and it's not a fanboyish thing to do that. It's not being a fanboy to call for that. It's not being a fanboy to hope that this whole video game industry does not get monopolized. Because the way that your favorite system and your favorite console manufacturer thrives is if there's competition. If you try to squelch any kind of competition, then they can get lazy and they give you subpar experiences. Again, this is not closed yet, so maybe something will happen before that transpires. Hopefully it does. And it's not being fanboy of me to say that. That's going to do it for this edition of Special Report. Thanks as always for watching. If you liked what you hear, even if you disagree with it, go ahead, hit the like button. That does help me out. Remember that dislike button is being hidden by YouTube right now. The like button because you would like that we had talked about this, even if you disagreed with what was said. Also, please subscribe for more Geek Gaming culture, and be sure to hit the bell and subscribe to these social media accounts, because we all know how YouTube operates. They like to give fixes to problems they create. I'm not sure why they have to give us more tools in order to have someone be aware that you made a new video. I don't understand that. What I do understand is this OCRemix track of the day, kind of a short one for you today. This one is from Argel and it's from Final Fantasy VI. The Terra of the Bells is a remix of the Terra track, which is the pre-cataclysmic world theme of Final Fantasy VI, the world map theme before Kefka goes and destroys the world. Spoiler. Anyway, I hope you like it. It's kind of a short one for you today. It's about 2 or so minutes long, so not very long. Thank you once again for joining me. Again, hit the like button and share for more Geek Gaming Culture. Subscribe for more Geek Gaming Culture as well. And I'll see you next time. Until then, my name's JD Shadow, and that just happened.